So we're at a really simple model here, and you would have seen that from, where we're at. Two of the slides there were around where are we going, and saying, okay, 2021, $10 million in revenue, exit by 2025, the NPS, we've got all these internal measures and direction of where we want to head. Where are we now? Well, we're at 7 mil. This is what our current performance is. These are the challenges we've got. And by evaluating, having a really clear plan of where we want to end up, and having a really clear understanding of where we are today, only then can we figure out what we need to do in the middle there and put in place actions to go and do something about it. Okay? So this is the same model that I run with all our clients, and it's the same thing that we run internally with us. In terms of our internal planning, and this is probably around scheduling, what we do internally is we do 2 days each year where we make sure we're on track with the where. Generally that's out of office, so we're away from phones, distractions, all those sort of things. And then we do quarterly recaps on it. So are we on track? Everybody go there. Food. The where's done annually, and then we recap to make sure that we're on track every quarter. Every quarter. So has something changed? Has something new come up? How we're going with our execution? Using Jeff's example, when we did our goal setting back in the 2018, did any of us foresee that Jeff would walk in and say I've got cancer and I'm not coming back to work anymore? Well, no. So it meant that we needed to reset our execution around the longer term strategy on the back of that event happening. Yeah. So, but that framework happens. So for us, like I said, it's 2 days of reviewing the where, and then every quarter we revisit to make sure we're on track, and just reset and call it, re-navigate if we need to re-navigate.
It's a good refresher too, isn't it? Just to remind you when you're doing it.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't need adjustment.
Correct. Because there's always actions to talk about as part of this as well. So our structure for doing this, it starts with really clear and concise personal goals. My view is that so much time is spent thinking about what you want to do with your business that you quite often forget about what things look like at home. And I think that is the absolute upside down way of thinking about it. I think what you've got to do, or what we've done with great success, is having a clear definition of what a successful home life looks like. So for me, what events am I at with the kids at school? How many holidays are we going on away? What personal goals do I want to achieve? I mentioned my golf handicap that I wanted to get down to. All these things come into play, and we set them at a personal level first. In terms of what that looks like at home for me, my wife has her goals, I have my goals, and then we sit down and make sure we're in alignment of that, because she's comfortable with me playing 3 games of golf over the weekend, because we've actually communicated what that looks like for me, and we can get work around, provided that there's something else not taking off somewhere else. But if I went and played 3 games of golf and didn't tell her, or she didn't understand where that was at, I would be having a completely different conversation. So we get alignment on that, and like I said, I don't think, the one, I did a podcast with one of my business colleagues in Queensland. He interviewed me around some of this stuff back 6 months ago, and he asked me a question. He said, well, what is the one thing that you'd like to leave as a legacy for your kids? And I didn't start doing any of this stuff till, I was on the wrong side of 30, I reckon. I just meandered along and, she'll be right. And so the one legacy that I want to leave my kids is a real framework for them to be better. And so I've actually started doing this with the girls now, where they've got their own goal book, they've got their goals for the year, they set a goal around school, they set a goal around their sport, they set a goal around themselves, they set a goal around their family, and then we have a plan and we talk about that as part of our structure that we go through. So I have monthly daddy dates where I go out with them that go in the calendar. Okay, girls, how are we going? Are we on track with your goals? What have you done? What haven't you done? So having that in place is really important in our dynamic of our business. And what we do is I understand what Tony and Michael's and Kristen's, who are my other shareholders, I understand what that looks like for them. So we make sure that we're not in conflict with what's happening in the business. Okay? These things can go really, really pear-shaped if there's not alignment. So they can go pear-shaped if they're not in alignment with your spouse or significant other or kids or whatever it might be. It can absolutely go pear-shaped if there's not transparency with business partners or other key people in your office about what alignment looks like there. So what we do is we set them, we revisit them, we share them. It's not up for me to tell them they've got a crappy goal or anything like that, but I've got to understand what it is and why it's important to them. Okay? Partners and families, and then from then, only then can we actually set our business goals for the year. So, say for example, somebody needs to, I'll give you an example of something that was real for me. When I was doing a lot of travel, so we've got some regional offices. I was doing a lot of work interstate. Going back 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I think I had close on, I think I did 110 plane trips or something like that over 12 months, and I was away from home 170 nights out of the 360 nights of the year. And so one of my goals was, well, I want to halve that. And so I had to sit down with the other guys in the office and said, okay, given that our business strategy is to expand here, but this is no longer sustainable for me to do this at a personal level, what do we need to do at a business level to change that? So for my goal then, for that to be achieved, what I needed to do was I needed to train up 2 other junior advisors so that they could go and do some of that travel. So a clear executable action came out of that personal goal and in terms of what happened then in the business. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so then the business goals naturally then flow out of the personal goals. So I'll give you another example. I went through this with one of my clients who was a husband and wife operation. Wife was she was the hardcore worker and general manager, CEO of the business. The husband, he was more the techie guy behind the scenes, and their goals was that, well, she wanted a business that was going to turn over $15 million and make $2 million a year, so that they could have this house and this lifestyle and all that sort of stuff. And he came back and he went, well, I don't want to hear that sort of stuff. I just want to earn $200,000 a year. And you can see how far at odds these were, that we then needed to navigate through getting alignment or a compromise or whatever it would be, so that they could effectively stay working together for one, stay married for two, or probably stay married one, stay working together for two, and make sure the business and everything didn't blow up on the back of that, because he just didn't want to play that game. Okay?
Did you get there?
Yeah, we did. They still have arm wrestles, but it was a few things that needed to be rejuggled around the edges so that could work. But from that personal goal, like I said, the clear and concise business goals can come out of that. And I don't think, like I said, that one of the key learnings is I don't think you can do one without the other. Because, would have seen, growing up with stories where, mum or dad or whoever it might be flogging themselves in the business, I'm doing it for the kids, I'm doing it for the family or whatever, and all of a sudden there's no family. you know, you just, it just doesn't work. Okay? I always call these things the brutal truths. So evaluating where you are now, and you know, you can fluff around the edges, and you can tell yourself you're better than you are, and you know, you're misguided about the feedback that you get. But if you want to get better and you want to achieve goals, you need to be brutally honest about where you sit. And what we talk about in business is we talk about critical success factors, and they're the key things in your business that need to operate and operate effectively for you to be able to achieve your goals. So, you know, some of the things that I've got up there that, you know, and every business has got a similar theme with most of them. Some of them are slightly different, but some of the stuff is, you know, what are your financial systems like? You know, how much cash have you got in the bank? Things like that. Are you financially healthy, or you're not financially healthy? How good's your team and your culture? You know, your customers, what do they think about you? What does your brand look like? What are your systems and procedures like? You know, general operations and delivery, what's your strategic planning, your discipline? You know, generally there'll be between 7 and 12 critical success factors in every business that you should analyse and get the information on to work out where your shortcomings are. Because we all have, when you're going about doing this stuff and executing your action plan, there is 2 key resources that we all have. One's the amount of time that either you've got or your team have got amongst all the other stuff that goes on every single day. The phone doesn't stop ringing and people don't stop complaining and life happens. And the amount of money that you've got to throw at this stuff. And you need to be able to prioritise your actions in those key areas to be able to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. So if the biggest issue, if you scored your team and culture a 3 out of 10, and your systems and procedures are a 8 out of 10, well, where are you going to spend your time improving in the, you know, to get a better business? So it's about being really clear about where your gaps are. You've got to measure this stuff. You've got to measure it. You know, what does the data say? You know, too often people don't have that data. They stick their finger in the air. Which way's the wind blowing? It's a guess. And it doesn't matter whether you're a $200,000 business, a $500,000 business, or a $50 million business. You've got to have the data. And a good buddy of mine is a fellow by the name of Jack Daly. He's an American guy. He's a sales coach from around the world. He travels the world. That's all he does is teach people about sales. And one of the things that I first met Jack probably 10 years ago, and the thing that still sticks with me that he said there is that most sports teams are run better than businesses. And the reason he says that is that, you know, you go down to the Adelaide Crows or Port Power, or I won't say the Strikers because they've just bummed out, or the Adelaide 36ers or whatever. They'll have coaches in place who are guiding the players and the management. They got somebody that's in charge of team culture. They're getting all the data. So, you know, all the AFL players, for example, are running around with GPSs on their back at training and in games, so know how fast they run, how long they run at that certain speed, what's their, you know, pinch tests on their arms, what's their, you know, BMI, all these sort of. The way those organisations are run are better than businesses, and Jack's exactly right. And the main reason is because people don't know what their numbers say. You just don't know the information. And if you want to have a strategic plan and some goals that you can execute and achieve, you need to know what they are. Okay?
You know how you had that thing before, the NPS?
Yep.
Which would be a way to assess some of this. Are there other tools that you use your team to find the information out, or?
Yep, so I mean, basic tools around this. So, yeah, there's some software that can give you that stuff, but, you know, and it depends on every business. I'll give you some that we track and follow. So we follow our NPS, we follow our eNPS. We've got really clear budgets. Does everyone have a budget?
Mm-hmm.
So we're tracking our revenue we track our revenue on a weekly basis. We track our margins, so our gross profit margins, our net profit margins. We track our turnaround time on our jobs. We track our leads. We track our conversion rates. So there's a whole lot of leading indicators that we track. We track our nurturing calls. So getting on a phone to clients and saying, okay, well, I've looked at your accounting file. I mean, cloud accounting's been a great enabler for us to be able to do this. But I've just gone in, checked your data. I've seen that your debtors have gone from $100,000 to $300,000. How's your cash flow? What's going on? We track our nurturing calls. So because that creates activity for us by getting on and doing that. You all have different leading indicators depending on what you do. You might have your social media engagement. So what's your engagement score on Twitter? Was it Clout? There's the Clout index or whatever. You're an influencer or not. How many hits you're getting on your website? What's the time that that's all. There is so many. It just depends on what you're after, and in a lot of cases there's software and things like that you can put in there around that. But I think my advice would be start with a 4 or 5 key areas and start with that. The other thing with that, and we've had great success with this, is people generally love games, and they love targets, and they love winning. So we've got scoreboards all around our office. We've got scoreboards and bells and all sorts of weird, wonderful stuff which seem to work. So we've got our revenue, how we're tracking on budget. We've got our NPS score. We've got our leads, all that sort of stuff. And so it doesn't rely on me to do it. We've got members in our team that own those numbers. So one of our senior advisors, he's responsible to collate all and get all the information out of our client management system, our sales pipeline. So okay, last week we had 17 leads worth $50,000, and we converted 48% of them. And he owns that number, and he reports on that number every week.
So it becomes competitive as well, which is great.
Correct. And the bells in the office are great because, in terms of encouraging good behaviour, we got the bell. Anybody can ring the bell at any given time, and they get a hooray from the team, just on the back of an achievement. They don't have to announce what it is, but people like seeing people do well, and you make it competitive, it works. But you actually have to know the numbers, and you have to have all the data, and you have to have a way of capturing it. So then, once we've got all that, we have action plans in play. So we need to know what are we going to do to get there. So this is the how piece. We break our actions down into yearly priorities and quarterly priorities, and then it gets broken down even further where somebody has a daily priority. So I heard you talking about the frogs before. Every morning we have a 9-minute, or it shouldn't go for any more than 9 minutes. It's a 9-minute huddle at 9 minutes to 9, where everybody reports on did they get their frog from yesterday, what's their frog for today, and are they stuck anywhere? So it creates more accountability and discipline. So we break it down almost to daily priorities in terms of executing these actions. In terms of our bigger strategic stuff, who's responsible? And I think it's important, a lot of people, when they're doing their action plans, get stuck on thinking that the person responsible to do it, or the person responsible is the one that actually has to do it. It's not the same thing. The person who's responsible is the one that needs to make sure it happens. They don't necessarily need to do it themselves. And this is a great game that I love having with clients when we do these things. So who's responsible for that? And say, him and her. Well, so nobody. If everybody's responsible, nobody's responsible. So it can only be one person. You've all heard about deadlines. Put a deadline on it, get it done, and then priorities. You've got to choose what's actually going to move the dial here. Okay, where you're going to allocate your time and resources. The key thing with a lot of this stuff is that accountability and reporting. So you've got to stay on, if you want to get from here to there, in terms of your strategic action plan, you actually have to report on it. So are you on track or are you off track? And who's actually holding you accountable to do it? So you've got this group. I don't know what happens at this group, whether, First session. First session. So I'm a member of EO, and basically at my EO sessions, there's a bit of accountability in there and the accountability is to the point where if I turn up to 3 meetings in a row, complaining or not having done something that I said I was supposed to do, that means I'm out the door. And that's, $10,000 flushed down the toilet. So there is some accountability there to do that. Correct. Internally in our team, well, we've got reporting structures in place where people have got to report back on their progress. Are we on track or are we off track? And we use a simple traffic light system with that. Green's on track, amber's sort of, maybe on track or could, and red is a million miles off target. And having a framework in place to do that, and having somebody, it's a bit like, and again I talk about this in terms of family businesses, husbands or partners keeping each other accountable, it doesn't work. Because what's the consequence? What's that? Yeah, but really, if somebody doesn't do that project, are you really going to kick them out?
No. So what happens if you're a one-man band and you have to get, so therefore, it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And obviously the accountability probably is reflected in your bottom line.
Correct. I would say you need a coach. An external, somebody who from external who can hold you to account. So I do this quite a lot with clients in terms of monthly or quarterly or whatever strategic planning, where we'll have a management meeting and it's my job to hold them to account. Because they're investing money with me, and do you know what, as much as I need money and all that sort of stuff, I like my time more. And if they turn up in meetings a couple of times in a row having not done it, I'll put the acid on them, and I've sacked clients on the back of this saying, you're just now taking the piss. Me taking your money, it's not good for me, it's not good for you. Either do it or let's not do this, because it's not fun. So I would say if you're a one-man operation like that, having somebody external that you can have as a mentor or as a coach, that's the way to go about it. And in terms of setting these plans, look, I do this for clients, but you know what? I pay somebody to come in and facilitate for us. Because I can't be a participant and a facilitator in setting my own strategic plan. So, I would say one of the biggest takeaways from this is, spend some money and get somebody to come in and talk you through it. Get somebody to challenge you on the way you think. Get somebody to challenge you on your actions. Get somebody to challenge you on your priorities. Get somebody external that you trust, that's trained in this area, to actually make sure you get it right. Don't just randomly go and do it yourself. And I get the resource issues for small business and stuff like that, but I think this is an investment in your business, it's not a cost to your business. Okay? So that's the other thing that I would say with that as well. Really simple, and this I'll send around just a little that you can print off. You can print on A3. It's as simple as this. Up the top, we've got the now. Where are we today? And you can break this down into action plans for whatever area it might be. So you might say, we need to do as part of our strategic plan, we need to get our brand sorted out, which is going to mean a new brand identity, a new website, logos, all that sort of stuff. Where it is now, well, it's crappy. We've got no hits, we've got no engagement. Where we want to be over here. Here's our strategies to do that. Here's the action plans. Here's the timing and stuff that needs to be done by. Really simple one page. I'll flick that around to you. That's, like I said, the really dumbed down version of Vern Harnish's thing. But I run this sort of stuff for me at home or wherever it is, so it works. So having that action plan. I'll put that down now. So quick recap, and like I said, we can talk about this and have some action. So having your clear goals, getting an external facilitator, being brutally honest with yourself, brutal truths, having an action plan, but not too much. So like for us, we've got, I think for the next 12 months, we've got 4 key things that we need to get done. Not 70, 4. So it's about narrowing it down to the stuff that actually shifts the dial, and then the accountability. So they're probably the key things on that.
No, it's really good, thank you.
Questions? Happy to have more.
You wanna see an April, please?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm just trying to think. Oh, here's those books.
Ah, cool.
Here's those books. So Ben Harnish has got 2 there. And what I would say is read that one first, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. It's not an easy read. You know, there's a bit of stuff in it. Scaling up is really the implementation of that. This is also the one, I've just finished reading that, Traction, probably 4 or 5 months ago. That's a little bit of an offshoot of that sort of stuff, because I think Gino actually did a bit of work with Vern. But there's just some slight variations on this, and look, the thing about it, a lot of this stuff is you can read 50 books on strategic planning, or listen to podcasts or webcasts, or go to seminars, or all that sort of stuff, and I'll guarantee you that 85% of what they'll talk about, the frameworks are exactly the same. And so don't get confused with all that sort of stuff. Pick a framework and stick to it, and then execute it. Pick something that works for you. Because like I said, you know, running the Vern Harnish model for you guys, for sole traders or smaller operations or whatever it might be, and I don't know the size of any of your show, but you know, spending the amount of time and doing that for a $500,000 business, it's hardcore to get that right. So pick what suits the circumstance that you're in. Cool.
So, thank you.
That's it. That's me. That's how you can get hold of me. You can get me on Twitter, or there's my email. I've given you all my business cards, so if anybody wants to, it's got my mobile on it. If you want to ring me and ask any questions, I'm always happy to help out.
Thank you.
That was really interesting, thank you.
Do you want to stop that, Simone, or do you want to?
Oh, yeah, that's